Good afternoon, welcome to VANIK-IAS. We'll start discussing current affairs of 13th July, and first topic is about North India's monsoon mine. And every year, the entire country awaits the onset and evolution of monsoon with better breath. Each year tends to be different, and this year managed to produce rather unique onset and evolution thus far. And the onset of monsoon season delayed by unforeseen interaction between the typhoons and cyclone. It's delayed. This year, the onset of monsoon is delayed. Then, what are the reason behind it? Why it is being delayed? The cyclone Biparjoy was born after the onset and lingered for longer than normal, and to delay the arrival of monsoon over Mumbai by nearly 2 weeks. For the first time in over half century, the city saw monsoon arrive together with Delhi. The monsoon that ended up with a exaggerated curvature over the northwest India. So why it is delayed? It is delayed because of the cyclone Biparjoy. The cyclone Biparjoy that came and in Arabian Sea, and that led to the delay in monsoon. Okay. How was the monsoon distributed? The deficit due to the delayed onset has been all but wiped out but the distribution of rainfall remains patchy as ever, and excess rainfall over the northern western Ghats into northwestern India, deficits extending to a horseshoe pattern from Uttar Pradesh to Odisha and back to the east into Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra. So generally, the deficit of monsoon is seen in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra, and all others region we are witnessing flood. Extreme heat has been reported in parts of Himachal Pradesh. Even some areas of the states received heavy rainfall that led to floods. Did climate change influence this monsoon? Now this is the biggest question, because at present time the biggest issue of the world is climate change and the terrorism, right? Did the challenge influence the monsoon? The impact of climate change is always been the great interest, but it is worth remembering that everything happens in a warmer world that is also more humid. As the old adage goes, climate is what we expect and weather what we get. With the global warming, a warm and humid atmosphere acts like a steroid for the weather. So when there is a warm and humid atmosphere, chances is that what will happen when temperature becomes high, then those air that moves off and low pressure is created in those areas. So obviously there will be rainfall, right? Every weather event now has some contribution to the global warming. One must pay close attention to the weather patterns that emerge due to the other factors as well. The El Nino has been grabbing most of the headlines this year, and yet it is not clear that the monsoon mayhem thus has been much to do with the El Nino. So this year it is not affected by El Nino, right? What is this El Nino? That is the rise in temperature in the Peru coast, and that led to, when the rise in temperature occurs, what happens? Obviously, low pressure is created in the Peru coast, and the air flows from the Indian Ocean towards the Peru coast, towards the left, and that leads to weakening of monsoon. That is what we call as El Nino. And now this year El Nino is not affecting the Indian monsoon. Okay. Additionally, wildfires thus far have burned over 3 times in normal area, 3 times the normal area, and have also emitted about 3 times much carbon dioxide. This has also a contribution towards the warming, right? Wildfires, they also affect our monsoon pattern because they create heat, and when they create heat, there is low pressure, so monsoon will be good. What are the other factors that affects monsoon? Indian subcontinent is like a popcorn kettle and that gets heated up by sun crosses over the northern hemisphere in the March. Yes, when sun crosses over the northern hemisphere in the March, the insolation is high and the sunlight is high, so heat will be more. Is like the kernels of corn popping randomly around kettle. This monsoon rain distribution always tends to be patchy. Excess rainfall over northwest India is consistent with the Arabian Sea, having warmed by around 1.5 degrees Celsius January. So, excess rainfall in northwest India is consistent with the Arabian Sea, and that is more temperature in the Arabian Sea is more. The June contributes about 15% of rainfall to the seasonal total. It is the June month that leads to the arrival of monsoon. The instabilities in the atmosphere that drive convection are not strong enough to drive large scale raining during the pre-monsoon season. Generally, in pre-monsoon season, huge amount of rainfall do not occur. The rainfall is pre-monsoon. The instabilities in the atmosphere that drive convection are not strong enough to drive large-scale rainfall during the pre-monsoon season. Rainfall this pre-monsoon was above normal due to combination of warm Arabian Sea above the normal. This pre-monsoon was above normal. Why there is because the combination of warm Arabian Sea and unusually high number of western disturbances. As a result, soils were left moisture than the normal dust affected the evolution of monsoon. However, the mystery that despite averaging rainfall over a month season, even in multiple seasons, rainfall distribution remains uneven. Disinformed rain and heterogeneous land use pattern are the so these factors, this uniform terrain. We do not have a uniform terrain. There are various plateaus. There is various hills. There is plain areas that also affects the, and also land use pattern that also affect the monsoon. Okay, there are also western disturbances that also are affecting the monsoon and high temperature in the Arabian Sea. The Atlantic and the upper atmosphere circulation also tinker the monsoon. The entire Atlantic Ocean has been warmer than the normal since March. The entire Atlantic Ocean has been warmer than the normal since March, while the so-called Atlantic El Nino with a warm tropical Atlantic generally tends to suppress the monsoon rainfall. It is not clear what the impacts are when the entire Atlantic is warm has been this year. So warming of Atlantic Ocean is also a major factor, because if that will become warmer, then the temperature will become high, and temperature become high means there will be low pressure, and the low pressure means the air will flow from the Indian Ocean towards the low pressure, right? And the monsoon will be weakened. The strongest wind that occur in the upper atmosphere can spontaneously break into the clockwise and anti-clockwise patterns, especially when they run into mountains and terrain such as Himalaya. Strong clockwise winds with air flowing out from the center upper atmosphere demand anti-clockwise circulation near the surface in order to feed the upper level outflow. Such a convergence near the surface can drive excess rainfall. So excess rainfall can occur only when there is strong clockwise winds. Finally, the warming over Himalaya has not been uniform either. Some parts of the mountain chain are amplifying global warming, leading to local warming, irregular weather patterns during the monsoon. Right, so some part of the Himalaya are also getting affected by monsoon. Irregular weather patterns during the monsoon superposed on the local features as a result of the wide winds expanding and compressing as they race up down on narrow valley. The results can be cloudburst, heavy rains, and even heat waves, depending on the local flow patterns. Such disparate weather patterns can occur side by side as well. So there is uncertainty in the monsoon. The conclusion is that Indian subcontinent is a very veritable popcorn kettle and that can throw up many surprises. It is highly complex, right? The meaning is that monsoon pattern is highly complex and not directly attributed to global warming. Even if there is very little other world happening in the warmer and wetter world, only improved forecast and sufficient granularity in space. So to develop our space technology and we have to improve our forecast can reduce the element of surprise resulting from weather monsters. So the weather events, extreme weather events that can be reduced, that can be observed or predicted in a better manner if we are investing more resources in the climate technologies in space and also thereby improving our weather forecasts. Okay. POXO Act. Despite concern over minors books under POXO. What is this POXO Act? Social issues. Now we are discussing about POXO Act. That is protection of children from sexual offences. Okay. Despite the concern over minors books under POXO, law panel are not lowering the consent age. Okay. While Asian several high courts has underlined concern of criminalization of adolescent sex, the second law commission of India is not in favor of lowering the age of the consent of minors, which is currently 18 under POXO Act. The commission headed by Justice Rituraj Awasthi is said to release a report on the minimum age of consent under which protection of children from sexual offences Act 2012. The Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, it is the first comprehensive law in the country dealing with specifically sexual abuse against children, enacted in 2012 and administered by Ministry of Women and Child Development. It was intended to protect children from sexual assault, sexual harassment, and pornography violations, as well to establish special courts for such trials. In 2019, the Act was amended and strengthened the penalties for specified offences in order to deter abusers and promote a dignified upbringing. So, to establish special courts for such trial for speedy justice and case of sexual harassment or sexual assault to the children, this POXO Act was brought, but the issue is that whether to lower the consent age or not. The gender neutral legislation, not a defined child, any person under the age of 18 is a child. Right. At the same time, we have juvenile legislation which says that any person who is 16 is adolescent. Right. Non-reporting is a crime. Any person in charge of an institution, excluding children, who fails to report the commission of a sexual offence involving a subordinate faces punishment. Non-reporting is a crime. Any person in charge of an institution, excluding children, who fails to report the commission a sexual offence involving a subordinate faces punishment. That means if any of your subordinate officer who is involved in the sexual harassment of a children, then it is your responsibility to inform the commission. No time limit for reporting abuse. The victim may report an offence anytime, even years after the abuse has occurred. Right? Victim may report. So even years after they may occur. Keeping the victim identity keeping the victim's identity confidential. That forbids the disclosure of the victim's identity in any form of media unless authorized by special courts established by the Act. Victim's identity confidential. This is the most important thing. The victim's identity should be confidential because there is social stigma. If anybody is doing anything like that, then that forbids the disclosure of the victim's identity in any form of media unless authorized by special courts established by Act. Such abuse is on the rise, particularly case COVID-19 outbreak when the new forms of cybercrime has emerged. Lack of awareness or knowledge on the part of minor girls, boys, parents, society as a whole. Criminalization of adolescent sex. The CJI DY channel should ask the lawmakers to look into the growing concern over criminalization under POCSO Act of adolescents who engage in consensual sexual activity. Yes, look into the growing concern of criminalization of the POCSO Act for the adolescents who engage in consensual sexual activity. What is the issue of minors being booked for minors consensual act? The minors aged between 16 and 18 who engage in consensual act may come under definition of sexual activity under the law on risk being booked under the POCSO. So even if there is consensus between the two minors, then there is also they can be booked under POCSO Act. While these cases of adolescent sex may not necessarily result in a conviction of a minor boy, the law is that it could result in denial of bail for prolonged detention. This may result in denial of bail and prolonged detention. That's the big problem. Because in India, there are so many persons who are there in who have not got bail and there is detained for a long time, right? According to a study, 1 in every 4 cases under POCSO Act of West Bengal, Assam and Maharashtra constituted romantic cases where the victim was found to be in a consensual relationship of the accused. And that's the big problem. When the two persons who are in minors, they are in consensual relationship and they can be, and around 25% of the POCSO Act are of that type, there is consent, that is there is consent of the both. The 22nd Law Commission of India's recommendation with respect to POCSO. The Law Commission of the view that lowering the age of the consent may be a counterproductive for women. The Law Commission is right to recommend the awareness measures of on the adolescent health care, including making sex education mandatory and teaching the basic consent under the POCSO Act in schools. The decision can be influenced by two key issues: the government's proposal to increase the minimum age of marriage for women, and incongruity between Muslim personal law and POCSO law. There is yes, because in under Muslim personal law they can marry for child. Muslims can marry even childs, right? Government proposal to increase the minimum age of marriage. Under the law, the age of consent of the POCSO Act, the age of majority and minimum age of marriage for women is common, that is 18 years. The cabinet cleared a proposal to raise legal age of marriage for women from 18 to 20 years to bring on par with men. The government cited gender neutrality, risk of earlier pregnancies, overall empowerment of women as reasons to increase the age of marriage. So, cabinet has cleared the proposal to increase the legal age of marriage from 18 to 21 years. So, how, when you say that the marriageable age is 21, how can we decrease the age of consent? And the Muslim personal marriage of girls is at puberty, which is presumed to be age of 15. The gap between Muslim personal laws and special legislation is prohibiting child's marriage. Lowering the age of consent for sexual activity under POCSO could potentially have an impact on these aspects too. Okay. Palliative care in India. Access to palliative care in India continues to be abysmal. Palliative care is a branch of medicine focusing on improving the quality and preventing suffering of those with life-limiting illness like heart failure, kidney failure, certain neurological diseases and cancer, etc. Continues to be abysmal. Now this palliative care, that is very important because that's related to heart failure, kidney failure, certain neurological disease and cancer. They are highly expenditure where this involves huge amount of expenditure. Often misinterpreted as end of life care, it focuses on the persons as a whole, not just on disease. Persons as a whole. Objectives of palliative care: to identify patients at risk of over medicalization at the expense of quality of life and financial burden on the family. To identify patients at the risk of over medicalization at the expense of quality of life and financial burden on the family. It is huge financial burden, and the family is unable to treat in case of such type of palliative disease. What is the physical, psychological, spiritual and social domains of the health of the people suffering from life-limiting diseases. These are called as life-limiting diseases. It also includes the bereavement and grieving support from the caregivers in case of death of the patient. Right? It includes support of to the caregivers, those who are caring to the patient. They are also first type. They also need to be included in the rehabilitation program. How many need palliative care in India? India has experienced steep rise in the burden of lifestyle-related non-communicable diseases. Huge amount of burden has increased. Nearly 1.4 million people are diagnosed with cancer in India every year, with While diabetes, hypertension, respiratory diseases are also in the rise, estimated 7 to 10 people need palliative care sooner or later in the disease trajectory. So 7 to 10 million people, that is around 7 to 20 crore people, need palliative care sooner or later in this disease trajectory. 1.4 million people, that means 14 lakh people. Okay, 14 lakh people are diagnosed with cancer in India every year. 14 lakh. Skewed availability of palliative care services largely been available at tertiary healthcare facilities. They are available at tertiary healthcare facilities. Only 1 to 2% of those required in the country. Even in urban areas, only 1% and 2% of medicals that are providing palliative care. 55 million people in India are pushed below poverty line every year due to the health related expenditures. 55 million people are pushed below poverty line due to health related expenditure. Over medicalization plays a significant role. Whenever a particular person suffers from a particular disease, their family members they pay a huge amount of money for expenditure, right? And that is the reason why they are pushed below poverty line. The three-tier health system, multiple national health programs and schemes like the Ayushman Bharat health insurance schemes. This is one state that has taken Ayushman Bharat, where 5 lakh is given to a family per year. National Program for Palliative Care (NPC) announced in 2012. However, lack a dedicated budget that prevented the implementation of the program. There is no dedicated budget from National Program for Palliative Care. National Program for Healthcare for Elderly launched in 2010 to provide accessible, affordable and high quality long-term comprehensive dedicated care services for aging population. That is National Program for Healthcare for Elderly. Some of the best practices NGO like Pallium India, Coronashraya can support. Pallium India, Coronashraya can support are trying to fill the gap of palliative care in India. However, NGOs have limitations on how much they can spend, and that doesn't compare anyway with how much the government can spend. So it's a huge gap between the NGOs and these people. National Program for Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Diseases (NPNCD), launched in 2010 to counter the rising burden of non-communicable diseases in the country. Rising burden of non-communicable diseases in the country. The program emphasizes a provision for promoting preventive and curative care from tertiary and to primary to tertiary institutes in case of palliative care. In order to strengthen the palliative care, government has revised the operational guidelines of NPNCD. What are the gaps in the guidelines? Mention palliative care is synonymous with cancer only. Generally, they are considered as cancer. However, the need to palliative care was higher in non-cancer illness, for example, the cardiac arrest or diabetes. Cancer is just one of the 20 common health conditions that require palliative care. No mention of home-based palliative care services, since most of the patients who need palliative care are suffering from debilitating diseases. Home-based care forms an ideal mode of health care delivery. However, palliative care service delivery starts only from the district hospital in the revised guidelines. No mention of pediatric palliative care. The guidelines kept an opportunity to bring focus on children suffering from chronic diseases. It is not mentioned. Special mention for the children is not given. Linking 11 programs including NPPC to promote convergence. The mechanisms of the linkage with a program NPPC that has not yet been fully implemented are unclear. So there is a gap in the implementation. 11 programs are not implemented properly. Broaden the sphere of palliative care to include multiple diseases and services. Palliative care needs to be integrated with health systems. Health system at all levels. Include palliative care along with curative treatment. Increased focus should be given to the impact assessment of palliative care programs. It is high time for India to realize on ongoing pandemic and non-communicable diseases and strengthen the palliative care services. Okay. Next, then first ever view of the Milky Way. Scientists have used data from the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory in Antarctica to obtain the first view of the Milky Way galaxy through the lens of neutrino particles. So, how they have observed it? Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory. Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory in Antarctica. So, they have found first ever view of Milky Way galaxy, the lens of neutrino particles. This breakthrough provides researchers with a new perspective in the cosmos, as neutrinos are a different way to study cosmic rays. Neutrinos, which are low mass particles that interact quickly with matter, emitted when cosmic rays collide with interstellar matter. By analyzing the data, scientists were able to differentiate between neutrinos in astrophysical origin and those generated from cosmic ray collisions in the Earth atmosphere. The study revealed that nearly 7% of the observed neutrino events were astrophysical in nature, rejecting the hypothesis that all events were due to cosmic rays hitting the Earth's atmosphere. This research opens new avenues for the studies of high energy processes in the galaxy. High energy galaxy and promises for future insights in the Ice Cube Generation 2 experiment expands the future. So, especially it says that there is a differentiate. Scientists are able to differentiate between neutrinos from astrophysical origin and Those are generated from cosmic ray collision in the Earth atmosphere. The study revealed that only 7% of observed neutrino events were astrophysical in nature, rejecting the hypothesis that all events are due to cosmic rays. So neutrinos, all events are not due to cosmic rays. Export control. China has implemented export restriction on gallium and germanium to two elements crucial for chip production. So it has implemented export restrictions, solar panels and fiber optics. So what is export control? Response to regulations and restrictions imposed by governments on the export of certain goods, technologies and services designed to protect the national security, prevent the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and ensure compliance of international agreements. So what is this? Why China has imposed this restriction on gallium and germanium? The reason is that it may be for national security or to prevent others from developing the weapons of mass destruction, and this move is retaliation of the export restriction imposed by US and Western allies, cutting edge technology. So it is one type of trade war. US and Western allies have imposed restrictions on technology. That's why China has imposed restrictions on this natural resources. What will happen? The consequences, impact. Countries may face chip shortage. China's control over supply chain and licensing system of these minerals could give them more leverage in the trade negotiations and create constraints in other countries, because nowadays the use of rare earth materials, the use of such type of goods are increasing, because we are more focusing on we are highly dependent on various rare earth materials for electric vehicles and various battery technologies and other electronic items, right? That's why we are in need of these rare earth materials. This development further escalates the ongoing technology war between the nations, especially between US and China. Technology war, right? Technology war between China. Positive, with China restrictions, the other countries can ramp up the production to substitute China's supply. However, it remains seen how other countries will respond, diversify their supply chains in the critical materials, right? So other countries may fill the gap. They may supply this as the production as a substitute to China. About gallium. Gallium is a soft silvery metal that often used in small amounts of various minerals. Gallium has a low melting point, making useful applications such as thermometers and as a component of alloys. It is also used in the manufacture of semiconductors, LEDs and various electronic devices. It is used. Gallium. Germanium is also these are the semiconductors. They use a lustrous and hard and grayish white metalloid that is commonly found in the trace of certain minerals. Germanium has semiconductor properties, making it useful electronic devices such as transistors and diodes. It is also used to infrared optics, fiber optics, solar cells. So germanium has high refractive index, excellent thermal conductivity, and so there are many thermal applications germanium has. Okay. And so obviously, because of the ongoing technology war. Next is Odisha cabinet recently recommended a proposal for inclusion of Kui language in the 8th schedule of the Indian constitutions. About Kui language. Kui is also known as Kandh, Kondhi, Khondo, a South Eastern Dravidian language. Kandh, Khondi, Khond or Khondo, Southeastern Dravidian language spoken by the Kandh community. It is primarily spoken in the state of Odisha. It is closely related to other languages of the Dravidian community such as Gondi and Kubi, referred to as Kuinga language in the historical period, with the 9,41,908 registered native speakers. It figures at rank of 29 in the 1999 Indian census script. The Ku is traditionally written in the Odia script. It is also used writing Odia language. So Indian Odisha government has recently recommended the proposal to include Ku language in the 8th schedule of the constitution, because 8th schedule is about language. So there are 22 official languages in the 8th schedule as of present, and 20 languages include 8 states of the constitution, that is Manipuri, Maithili, Kashmiri, Hindi, Kannada, Gujarati, Malayalam, Assamese, Marathi, Nepali, Bengali, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Sindhi, Telugu, Tamil, Urdu, Bodo, Dogri and Santali. 14th of these languages originally listed in the constitution. Sindhi was introduced in 1967, Konkani, Manipuri, Nepali 1992. Then Maithili Bodo will adopt of 2003. Just a second. What is Guillain-Barré syndrome? Recently, Peru was declared as a state national emergency in the south of president suffering from Guillain-Barré syndrome. It's a rare autoimmune disorder in the body's immune system mistakenly attacks the peripheral nerves. It's common in adults and males but can affect all people ages. The first symptoms of Guillain-Barré syndrome include weakness, tingling sensations, start in the legs, can spread in the arms and face. For example, these symptoms can lead to paralysis in legs, arms, and muscles in the face. That is Guillain-Barré syndrome. That's why Peru has declared national emergency. Remember, Peru has declared national emergency for Guillain-Barré syndrome that affects the nervous system, legs, arms, and muscles, and face. It affects a particular person. Then, what are the causes? It is preceded by an infection. It's a viral infection, could be bacterial or viral infection, it's not particular. The most frequent associated infections include the Campylobacter jejuni, Epstein-Barr virus, and cytomegalovirus. Bacterial response for pneumonia and urinary tract infections. It may also be triggered by vaccine administration or surgery. There is no particular cure for the syndrome. Most commonly used for treatment of intravenous immunoglobulin, which is made the donated blood that contains healthy antibodies. This helps that immune system attack. Helps calm down the immune system's attack on the nerves. So this is about Guillain-Barré syndrome, and the lectures end here. And like this video and share and subscribe to VANIK-IAS.